Alright, so in this video we're going to talk about some other tools that are useful largely for character manipulation of files in Linux. So we're going to talk about sed, we're going to talk about awk, we're going to talk about tr, and then we're going to talk about rogue, which is a cool little dungeon crawling game that will help you get better working in VI. So let's start with sed. We talked about regular expressions in the last video. Sed is basically a regular expression processor. Specifically, it's a stream editor. It's made for doing the kinds of things you can do in VI, but doing them to a file from a set of commands instead of interactively going in and working with a file. You can specify a set of instructions and have sed make corresponding changes. So I'm going to work on this, sort of random test file that we were using before, and let's just try some of the things we did in the last video with regular expressions. For example, let's replace the first character of each line with an uppercase X. So I can say sed, and then inside single quotes I'm going to list what's called a program, basically a set of instructions, and my instructions will be substitute the beginning of the line followed by any character with an uppercase X. And if I just type this, it's going to read from standard in, and I can say, hello, and it replaces the first character with an X. And I can say 1, 2, 3, ABC, and it replaces the first character with an X. And Control D will end my my input. So I could also take this and I could redirect standard in from my file, and it will do the same thing. I could also cat my file and pipe that into sed, like this. But sed will also take the name of a file that you want to process. So I could do my original sed and just put in the name of the file that I wanted to read input from, and it will go ahead and make those changes on there. Now it doesn't change the file, right? Sed is basically getting input from standard in or from a file, making changes according to, in this case, this program, and then writing the results to standard out. So, I could do this, sed, and I could put that into file 2. And now if I look at file 2, it's, my modified version of file. But sed itself doesn't change a file when you run it. So we can do all sorts of things. Substitute, the first character of a line, followed by any two characters, followed by a fourth character, and replace that with the second and third characters, the fourth character, and the first character. And so, BCD followed by A, HIS followed by T. So I took the first character and moved it to the fourth position, right? These patterns are typically difficult to read, not too hard to write once you've got some practice with it. But if you look at this and this looks hopelessly confusing, that's okay. People who have been doing regular expressions for a really long time would look at this and think it was hopelessly confusing. You could figure it out eventually, but it's much easier to write regular expressions than to read them. And so we can do, lots of useful file processing like this. For example, here's my file. I could do the following. Substitute the end of the line with a new line, right? So I'm saying substitute slash, there's my anchor, which says the end of the line, and replace it with a /n. And now I get my file, but it's double spaced, right? So that's pretty easy to do. If I did a /n, in the right way, /n, right? Now I've got a triple spaced file. Nothing magic about that. It's just, it's just a regular expression. So, I can put this inside a bash script. I can read from a file. I can read from standard in, which means I can type another command into this and do manipulation on the output of a command. So that's basically what sed is, right? It's stands for Stream Editor, and it's capable of doing a lot more than this. There's a whole programming environment inside sed, but it's useful, if for nothing else, just for doing these kinds of edits on a file. All right, so that's sed, and there's several exercises in the problem set for playing around with that. One thing we'll often do with this, though, is we'll capture what it sends to standard out and make use of that. So, for example, let's look at the uptime, right? So we've been up this amount of time, and let's say we want to make some change here. Let's say we want to get rid of this timestamp in the beginning, right? So this is the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 characters of the line. So I could say uptime, and I could pipe that into sed, and say let's get rid of the first 10 characters. Take the 10 characters following the anchor at the beginning, replace them with nothing. And don't forget your closing quote. So now I've got my uptime message, but it just says, up 42 days. So if I wanted to, take the current date, and let's say we just want to know what the month is. Well, there's ways we can do this with the date command, but I could also say let's just cut off the first 7 characters. And then I could say, let's take everything from this space to the end and get rid of that. So I could pipe this into sed. And this says, find a space and take any number of characters after that and replace it with nothing. And so now I've got October. And now I could say something like, month equals $ parentheses, all of this stuff. And when I do that, what was sent to standard out, OCT, is now stored in this variable month. So capturing the output of any of these commands we're talking about is often a useful thing. And again, there's lots of ways we can do this. There's a date command I can use for just getting the month. We're going to talk about awk next. Awk would be another way to pick out, this third field. That might work better than this because, maybe our date is going to be only a single digit, and I'd be getting rid of too many characters here. But being able to capture what's sent to standard out and store that in a variable, that's going to be a useful thing. So let's take a look at awk. Awk is basically a way to take each line of a file and break it up into fields. So let's keep working with date. Date has a number of fields on it. There's Tuesday, there's the day of the month, there's the month, the year, there's the time, there's AM, PM, and there's the time zone. Alright, so awk takes a program, we put it inside curly brackets, and we can basically say something like print $1, and whatever we feed to standard in, $1 says print out the first field. So this would be the word this. If I say what is going on, $1 is the word what. So if I do this and I feed my test file into it, I get the first word of each line. So if I say something like print $2, $1, this will print out the second word followed by the first word. This is a test, becomes is this. All right, second word followed by first word. A, B, C, D, E, $2 is BBB, $1 is AA. It prints out the second word followed by the first word. So we can take a line of text and break it into pieces using awk, and then do whatever we want with those individual pieces. So with a date command, for example, if we just wanted to know what year it was, That's $123.4. That's the fourth field. So I could say date, pipe into awk, print $4, and it gives me the year. And then I could say year equals $paren, all of that stuff with a paren at the end. And now my variable year contains the year. So awk is useful for rearranging the fields on each line of a file. Sed is useful for making changes to those to the contents of each line of the file. Sort of different purposes. Sed lets us do edits, right? Search for patterns and replace them with things. Awk is really good for just grabbing individual fields. So if I say something like ifconfig, which shows me information about my network status, and I want to look for transmitted packets, I could say ifconfig, and I could put that into grep, and I could search for tx packets, and just get that information about transmitted packets from different devices. And if I just wanted to see the number of bytes, right, I could look at 1, 2, 3, 4. I could look at the fifth field on each line. So I could take this and I could pipe it into awk, print $5, and I'm just seeing the number of bytes. So like many commands, there are a ton of switches you can use, and there's manual pages for all of these things. But one switch in particular that's really useful with awk is this uppercase F. And this specifies the field separator. So far when we look at something like date, and we're thinking of it as fields, these fields are separated by spaces. But for example, if we look at the password file, the fields here are separated by colons. And so if we wanted to see, you know, let's just say the username, we could think of that as the first field of each line, but the fields are separated by colons instead of spaces. So if I just say awk print $1 etc password, I get pretty much, you know, everything up to the first space. But if I say awk and I say dash uppercase F colon, that says, hey, when I'm looking at fields, fields are things separated by colons. So when I print $1, it should print the first thing on each line up to the first colon. So now I get a list of usernames. So that's a pretty useful switch for awk, is being able to break things up by something other than spaces. All right, next command to look at is tr. tr is the translate command, and mostly one thing we do with translate, we use it to convert characters from one set to another. And a pretty common version of this is tr a-z space uppercase a-z, and this will take any lowercase letters, change them into uppercase. And if we do it the other way, right, same thing, it'll translate from uppercase to lowercase. So that's a pretty easy function to use. And again, you know, we can pipe things accordingly. So we can say cow say hello. And if we pipe that into tr a through z, then we get, you know, a shouting cow. So not a big deal. And if we do date, we get our date like that. If we do date and we pipe it into tr a through z, we get an uppercased date. You have to spell date correctly. And if we pipe that into cow say, then we get a cow telling us our uppercase date. So, you know, this is what we want to be thinking when we're working in Linux, is, you know, putting these things together. And then we don't need to know a million different switches for a million different commands. We need to know a small set of commands but be thinking about how they can combine to get some larger behavior that we're interested in. So that's the tr command. Next command I want to talk about, I think I forgot to mention in the beginning, is curl. And curl is it's a way to fetch web pages from the command line or from a bash script. So for example, if I just say curl clark.edu, this will go to Clark's website, and I get a very short HTML document which says this document has moved, and here's the new location for it. So if I say curl and I grab that website, I get Clark's website, right? And let's run this through more. And so I can look at this, you know, one page at a time. So here's all the style sheets, and here's some JavaScript, and so on and so forth. Now, do you want to look at the raw HTML coming back from a website? You know, oftentimes the answer is no, right? We have browsers that will interpret these things and display them for us, and if it's a very simple HTML page, maybe we can make sense out of it ourselves. But a lot of times, you know, there's JavaScript and there's things happening on the back end, and this may have limited usefulness, but you know, sometimes this is a useful thing to do. So we've got some homework questions where you'll get to play around with this to go to a weather site and pull out weather information and extract it by using various tools like sed, for example, and then you know, use that to get something like the current temperature into a shell variable. So we'll play around with that. But curl is a useful command if you want to make a basically a web request to a site, and you can set up sites that, rather than being intended to be looked at from a browser, are intended to convey information to you, and you can run the client side of that by using curl. So that's a useful command. All right, last one I want to talk about is rogue. Let me hop onto the server. And Rogue is a very old classic dungeon crawling game. And it's fun because it lets you practice moving around the way you move around in VI, right? Which is to use H, J, K, and L. So H moves to the left, J moves down, K moves up, and L moves to the right. And so I'm just moving this character around. If you find a symbol like this, you can get on top of it and take possession of it. So an exclamation mark will be a potion. So I've gotten a beige potion. A question mark will be a scroll. So I just got a scroll entitled all of this stuff. And these little plus signs are doorways. So I can start moving through those and get into a new room. So asterisks are gold. That's the main thing you're after, is collecting as much gold as possible. And so I can move through this tunnel. And uppercase letters, these are monsters. So there's a kestrel. To fight a monster, just move into it. So I'm just going to keep hitting L to move to the right. I defeated the kestrel. Here comes a hobgoblin. I'm just going to hang out here and let it come to me. I'm hitting a period to just pass time. And now I'm going to hit an L to move to the right. And, you know, my health is going down. My strength is at 16. My armor is 4. If my health goes to 0, I die. My health is down to 3. Oh, I died. All right. So, didn't do very well. And when it says more, you can hit a space bar to go on to the next screen. And then let's go ahead and run this again. And let's just move around. There's a kestrel I defeated. There's another kestrel I defeated. I got some more gold. So you can hit a question mark to get help. If you want help on everything, hit an asterisk, and it will show you all of the keys that it recognizes. Right, here's our HJKL for basic movement. and I can hit the space bar to continue. Escape will get you out of your current prompt, so if I'm done getting help, I can hit an escape, and now I can just continue. There's some more gold. And so this is, you know, a reasonable way to waste some time to get some rest and relaxation. And there's some shortcuts you can use, but, you know, don't need shortcuts. There's a scroll. And you can read a scroll by hitting an uppercase R. Sorry, that was a potion. So you can quaff a potion by hitting Q. Hit a question mark to see what you're going to quaff. Well, all I have is a yellow potion, so I'm going to quaff that. And it says you feel confused. So for the next minute or so, my movements will be random, right? I'm trying to move to the right, and it's not doing a very good job. That's a really bad thing if you're being chased by a snake, because snakes are pretty vicious. And if you can't move in the direction you want, then there's a good chance the snake will kill you. So that's Rogue. A lot of people have spent a lot of time playing this game. You can level up, so I'm at level 2 now. And I'll get my last gold, and I'll pick up this ring. And these percent signs are stairs. So you can hit a greater than sign to go down, you can hit a less than sign to go up, but you can't go up until you've made it all the way to the bottom and recovered the Amulet of Yendor, and then you can climb back up and escape the dungeon. And it obviously gets more treacherous the deeper you go, and so you try to get a lot of experience before you go into the deeper levels of the dungeon. So that's Rogue. And it's on the server. The high scores are mostly left over from, I think, 2 years ago. So we need to represent class of 23-24 and get some high scores up there. Alright, and get some practice with HJKL. Oh yeah, and if you want to quit, it's an uppercase Q. And it'll ask if you really want to quit, say yes, and it'll show you the high score, and then you're back out. Alright, that's all I got. Thanks.